Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of What Do You Do podcast. My name is JJ Vola. Alongside here is my co-host, Cal. Today, we have a special guest, Liz. Liz is a entrepreneur, speaker, influencer, mother, wife that has been helping people with their finances. And Liz runs a platform called Ambitious Adulting that helps Canadian millennials save more, make more, and reduce stress about making money. Welcome to the show, Liz. Thank you for coming on the podcast. Tell us why you started Ambitious Adulting.
Thanks. I'm so excited. Well, you know, Cal and I went to high school together,
Yep.
so it's just like a full circle moment. But Ambitious Adulting, like, kind of started by accident because I was blogging when I bought my first house. I was 24 and I was blogging about how I was fixing it up. It was a fixer-upper and I was by myself. I'm like, oh gosh, like, how do I patch holes? How do I, like, fix windows that are broken, you know? So I had no money after the down payment. So I was Googling, like, how to patch holes and blogging about, like, hey guys, look how to do it.
Right.
And then eventually I fixed it up. I'm like, now what do I write about? So people were asking me, like, how did you save for the down payment? So I started writing about how I saved and how I was budgeting and how I was, you know, paying for all these expenses. And that's when I saw the analytics of my blog, like, really blow up. I'm like, why do people care so much about saving for a down payment? Like, why don't they care about how to patch their holes and how to do their own plumbing? Like, that was not interesting. So that's really when I started talking more and blogging more about finances, and then I just took off.
Wow. So that was just like for people that were just on like your Instagram, Facebook, people that knew you sort of thing. They just started reaching out, just being like, Liz, like, how do you save up? Like, how did you do it sort of thing? Mm-hmm. And you were ahead of it too, if I remember. Like, you were pretty young when you bought your first house. And I mean, for a lot of us, I mean, with the price of housing today and real estate, it's really kind of come up, and everyone's kind of wondering, you know, how do you save the money? Mm-hmm. How do you, you know, put your money in the right places and invest it and whatnot? So, yeah, that's awesome, Liz. And then, so growing up, I mean, going back to you and me, so I know Liz from like way back in the day, elementary school. Yeah. And I used to go over to Liz's house and get some extra help with a little bit of tutoring and help with some papers and essays and all that kind of stuff. And you were instrumental in helping me pass. So I appreciate that. Yeah. And it's so good to see how well you're doing and the family that you have and all that kind of stuff. So kind of take us back after elementary school. We went to high school together. And then after high school, where did you go?
I went to McMaster. Yeah, so I went to Mac and I studied geography and environmental studies, which I don't use now. But I don't regret any of that because that degree helped me get my first co-op job at the City of Hamilton, which was the launching pad to then get like a provincial job. And I worked in government for 6 years because I got that co-op. And then eventually I was like, I am not cut out for like government work, bureaucracy, inefficiency, following instructions. Right. And I didn't have an issue with authority. I just could see like I could do things on my own better.
Sure.
And I became self-employed.
Yeah. And that's like, I worked for the city of Burlington growing up too. I was a Zamboni driver and whatnot. And I, you know, things move slowly in the government. So slow.
Like, you can't get anything done. I had these ideas and visions and I was like, I want to change the world and I want to do things. They're like, no, we have to run it through 30 people. And then it comes back like 6 months later, like denied. I'm like, what a waste of time.
Sure. Yeah. And it's like, you know, you want to be a mover and a shaker, and like that's how you've always been, like super smart and outgoing and whatnot. And it's for movers and shakers, it's not exactly the employment kind of route for those type of people. So not to, you know, hit anyone that works in the government or anything like that.
Some people just like to go in and out and like do what they're told, and that's fine. It just didn't work for me. And some people could never do what I do because you have to be on your A game all the time. So that's what makes the world go round. Like, everyone is meant for different things.
Right. Yeah. So how long was that co-op, and was it paid, Liz?
Yeah, it was paid. It was actually paid really well at the time because I think minimum wage was $11 an hour or something like that. And I was making $18 an hour at my co-op. And I liked it because it was environmental education, like promoting recycling and composting, which is what I wanted to do. But what I didn't like was that it was contract to contract. So every 4 months I had to keep applying to my job to keep it. And so a lot of times people think that being self-employed, there's no security. But I felt less security working for the city of Hamilton on a contract job
Wow.
for
Got it.
like 3 years.
Right. And that makes, I mean, for a lot of people, they start off in contract jobs and over time they build up, I guess, seniority, and then eventually they get to take on like a full-time role sort
It
of thing.
takes years for people sometimes.
It
Like
does.
I know people that were working for like 4 or 5 years before they got their full-time position. I'm like, this is such a grind. I'm not a fan of it.
Sure,
Yeah,
sure.
Absolutely.
So after working for the city, what did you do next?
I moved on to a provincial agency doing data analysis and labor market research, which was good until I started I was working on a project for the LRT here in Hamilton and the kind of jobs that were being created. And I worked on that report for like 3 years, and then the LRT got scrapped. That's when I was really like, wow, that did not go anywhere.
No.
Like 3 years of my work just ended up in a report that no one read.
Oh my
Right.
goodness.
And so it was kind of disappointing because, again, like I wanted to change the world, and I still do. Not the world, but like I want to have an impact in my life.
Sure.
And some people are like, oh, it's fine. I still got paid to do it. I'm like, but I don't. It's not that I don't care about that, but I actually want my work to mean something.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So your results like oriented.
Yeah, I'm like, what's the point of just sitting around like plugging away, getting paid if it's not going to do anything?
For sure. For sure.
Absolutely.
Jeez, eh? So that was kind of a tough pill to swallow after spending all this time and years, you know, trying to build this plan and trying to do something good for the city, and then just gets scrapped, which is, I mean, we heard about that the LRT was shut down and whatnot. What was the reason that they shut it down? If
Oh, I think it was just money and I can't even remember anymore, but
Yeah.
it was so many levels of government, right? And so municipally they wanted it, but then I think Doug Ford came in and he was like, hey, do you guys still want this? Or I don't know, it was kind of confusing.
right, yeah.
I don't remember. I just like blocked that part of my memory out. I'm like,
Right.
"Ugh."
Yeah.
So I guess you were kind of done with working with the government after that, or is that when you kind of started your?
Well, at that time, I was already working on my side hustle.
Right.
So I was running social media accounts on the side. And I got to this point where I was making the same amount of money part-time as I was in my day job.
Right.
So I was kind of like, you know what? I think if I take this full-time, I'll be okay. So I
Right.
quit.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Wow.
Congrats.
Yeah. And just for the side hustle, like, what was that adding to the income?
Yeah, I was making like $50,000 on the side.
Okay. Wow.
So like managing social media accounts.
Got it.
Really.
Yeah.
And do you know how many you were arranging at one time? Like, how many accounts were you doing?
A lot. Like, I was doing campaigns, but then I was also managing like weekly accounts for people. Maybe like my top, probably 7
Okay.
at once,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
which was a lot.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was
That's
like, I cannot do this plus a full-time job.
And what's it take? You got to post every day for that social media. Do you have to go to their workplace?
I would go on like evenings and weekends, take photos, build up a library and a catalog, schedule it,
Right.
like try to do everything evenings and weekends, and then like during the day I was working, so I couldn't
Okay.
really. On my lunches and breaks, I would try to like engage and make comments and stuff, but yeah, it was just like work nonstop.
yeah. So you were hustling. You
Yeah.
were going
Like
pretty
always.
hard.
That's
Yeah.
good.
And going back to you quitting your job and then going and doing your side hustle, like taking that leap of faith, which is a huge thing for entrepreneurs and like even young people that really want to go out and, you know, do their own thing, and they're struggling with, you know, should I leave my job or should I stay here where it's safe or what they think is safe, and then go out and kind of take that leap of faith and go do your own thing. What would you say to someone that's like young like that and they're trying to make that decision? Like what maybe like 3 things that like they should think about before making that leap of faith?
Yeah, I think it's an emotional and a financial decision. For me, I knew that I could be successful doing my business because I had a proven track record of success. So I wasn't scared that I wasn't going to get clients because I already had clients. And it was really lining people up because people were asking me to give them more time. And I'm like, I don't have more time. And so when I was thinking about quitting, I'm like, listen, I'm going to quit my job and I need you to give me like more work. And so I was starting to line up more work. And then also I saved up a year's salary in case like nothing worked or in case like things, you know,
You got to be
went horribly
prepared
wrong.
financially. Yeah, absolutely.
So I was like, okay, let me save up a year's salary. And then that's when I personally felt ready to quit. But people quit like without saving, without having anything lined up, and they just, you know, jump for it and have a leap
Yeah.
of faith. I wanted more structure. to make sure that everything was going to work out.
Sure. That's huge, you know. I mean, nowadays, I took a leap of faith, like with Bubble Force and whatnot. I didn't really have anything lined up. I was like, hey, let's just go for it. And hopefully we have people come out and play, sort of thing. And we did. I mean, it worked out, and it was growing and all that kind of stuff. So I think I even ran into you at like a festival that we were having.
Probably.
And I think you were
Gage Park, I think.
Gage Park. Yeah. And you were running the social media accounts. And I know you were
probably
one of them. Yeah.
I'm everywhere.
Yeah.
But that's the thing about entrepreneurs. Like, there really is no linear path for everyone. Like, you took a route, I took a route, someone else took another route, and ultimately, like, if you feel driven to do it, you'll make it work.
Sure. And the worst thing that can happen is that you fail. I mean,
and then you go back to a job.
And then reset and redo it all over again until eventually something works out. Mm-hmm. So, that's awesome. And then after the social media, so you were running that. So you quit your job, you're running social media accounts and your content.
And that's when I was blogging on my Ambitious Adulting. And I had like 3 other names before Ambitious Adulting. Like, I was just blogging all sorts of things.
Sure.
And eventually when I was like, I think I can monetize this, that's when I sat down and brainstormed, like, what does this brand represent? Like, what is this about? And that's when I came up with Ambitious Adulting. But I still didn't know how to monetize it. I'm like, I know people want this and they care about this, but like, how do I make money off of this?
Sure.
And then I think at that point I was listening to business podcasts and, you know, watching YouTube videos of entrepreneurs and how to make money. And I developed a course. I started doing public speaking, and then that's how I monetized it.
Geez. Okay. Mm-hmm. So like, it wasn't like you took like one specific course and they're like, you know, this is kind of what your offering is. These are the products that you want to do and offer to people that you saw like a hole in the market sort of thing. And then you created those products to meet the needs of the customer. So there was nothing like specific. You were just kind of like...
Yeah, I took a course after because I'd done a few little courses about marketing just for Shout Outs Hamilton. So I'm like, I know I can market myself, but what is the product that I'm marketing?
Sure. Right.
So then I took a course eventually to refine my courses, because before I had a whole bunch of different courses, and then I really honed in on like what people wanted to learn from me, and that was the basics of investing. So I started this investing boot camp, which was 2 weeks of just like the fundamentals of investing, just to help people get over their fear of the stock market, real estate, and just different investment options.
Sure.
And that's kind of what I focused on.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. Yeah. So investing's a huge one. And then even before that, so like if anyone's listening to the podcast or they're watching it on YouTube and they are like, you know what, I just need to make more money right now. Do you have any piece of advice, Liz, like 3 pieces of advice I might be able to say to someone? Just be like, hey, if you want to make some more money, these are 3 things that you might be able to do.
Yeah, I mean, I do teach side hustle workshops too, and people always ask me for like the secret side hustle that makes them the most money the shortest amount of time. And I'm like, that doesn't exist. You need to find it yourself. Like, if somebody told me it's so easy to be a dog walker, just go be a dog walker, I'm scared of dogs. Like that, you can't tell me to do that if I'm not going to be a good fit for that. And same with like, oh, just be a social media manager. I was making so much money on the side. Like, what if you are not good at that? So my advice is like, figure out what you're good at. Like, what are your skills? Yeah. What do you like to do? And then how can you monetize that? Like, if you like plants, go propagate some plants. Sell them on Facebook Marketplace, and boom, you make some money. So it really starts with what you're good at and what you like, because I think you can really monetize anything.
And I think that's our biggest problem today. A lot of people want it quick, easy, fast. Just like, you know, I want to work out, I want to get fit, but they want it the quick and easy way. But the reality is you got to put the time in. You got to go every day. You take a couple steps every day, and a year later, 2 years later, it's going to be something amazing, right? Some people get so diminished when they try doing side hustle stuff, and then a month later, they didn't make anything.
Yeah.
Right? But absolutely, you got to stick with it.
Yeah, and there's no magic pill that you can just take for anything in life. And like you said, like you should go around, figure out what you're good at, or even go around like maybe to other people that know you really, really well.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, what do you think I could do? What kind of value I could bring to someone else, sort of thing. And then see if you can kind of create a side hustle from there.
Like what do people come to you for? And that's how Ambitious Adulting started, because people were asking me questions about finance. Like, I didn't think like I'm going to go out and talk about finances. People were asking me those questions, and that's when I saw the need. I'm like, what? You guys don't know how to do this? Like, I didn't realize how confusing it was to learn how to save, budget, and invest. Like, to me, it was kind of common sense.
Sure.
So that's when I'm like, well, I can teach you this.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So if somebody maybe is not good doing side hustle stuff, right? Maybe they have a lot too much time, or work is a factor. Maybe somebody just wants to make more money in their current job. What would you say the best way to ask a raise of an employer?
Yeah, I mean, I do think that people should focus on their primary income if they're trying to increase their income.
Yeah.
Because the side hustle, even though it's great, requires so much time and energy. I never asked for a raise because I was so like scared and didn't know how to do it. I'm like, I'll just do my own work because I just wasn't cut out for that life. So I don't know. I don't think I have the best advice on asking for a raise, but go ask for a raise.
Just keep it simple. I think a lot of things come to it too. Like you got to show why you're worth that extra little bit, right? Even if it's $1.
Yeah, maybe you
$2.
can teach me.
Yeah.
I haven't had a job. I haven't had an employer in 6 years. So I'm like, oh, I don't know.
Give yourself a raise, you know?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Work harder. Now, obviously, with side hustle, you can do, the sky's the limit, whatever you're comfortable with. Is there anything that you could do maybe to help save money is a huge factor? Because I think a lot of people will spend money and then don't realize how much they make, and then they go and spend it a week later, but more than what they actually were making. So what's a good way of saving money?
I think the easiest way to save money is to automate your savings. So I consider saving and investing a bill. Like just how I pay my cell phone bill every month and my mortgages every month, I am going to put money aside automatically and just pretend it's a bill. Then after all of my bills are met, then I can spend on whatever I want. So I don't restrict my spending. I don't say like I'm only going to spend $100 eating out this week. No, because I've already saved and invested. So that's what people say, like pay yourself first.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Got it. So after you pay all your bills, whatever's left over, that's what you can kind of enjoy as your entertainment sort of money.
Yeah, and saving should be considered a bill. Like it's a priority.
Got
I
it.
see.
Okay.
Right. And is that a set amount or is that just a percentage?
I think a percentage probably to start. And I'm self-employed, right? So I have a set amount, but then if I have a really good month, I put more into saving and investing and then also more into enjoying my life.
Yeah.
But I always have it top priority.
Sure.
And for entrepreneurs, it fluctuates every month, right? Versus somebody who goes
every week,
yeah, every day,
every day.
Versus somebody who goes to that 9 to 5,
Yeah.
you know, they can limit exactly what they make. Or their paycheck's probably the same every month.
Yeah, it's actually
right?
so much easier to save if you have predictable income.
Right.
Like, okay, you make, let's just say $4,000 a month, you know, break it down. Can you afford to put $50 a month into savings? Probably, hopefully.
Yeah.
Put it straight into a separate savings account.
Sure.
Excellent.
And then for automating your savings, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, so I have different accounts. Well, I have many accounts. So I have an account I have 2 businesses, right? So a bank account for those businesses, and then my personal, and then my joint. So anyways, that's a whole other conversation about how to structure your finances and accounts.
Sure.
But essentially, my banks just let you like click a button that says move $100 into this account this day of the month, or move $50 bi-weekly into this account. So it's just always running behind the scenes.
Got it. So like if you get paid on Friday, then automatically deposit that $100 into that savings account every Friday sort of thing, or every 2 weeks as you get paid. And then over time, it'll kind of build up. And
And you can have multiple accounts depending on, like I use free banks that don't charge me monthly fees, but I have lots of different accounts. Like one is for my taxes because I know I owe taxes, and then, you know, HST, and then I also have my emergency fund, my home renovation fund. So money's just like flying behind the scenes, being automated into all these different accounts.
Got it. Yeah. And that's what happens is, like, you know, with a lot of entrepreneurs, like at the end of the year, they're like, oh, I got to do all my books.
Yeah.
And then it's just a mad scramble.
Like
to be like,
scrambling
oh my
to
God.
find money to pay off the taxes. I'm like, here's a nice pool of money that I've allocated for this amount.
Sure. And this is something that you help people with, millennials specifically. And you help them kind of automate savings, how to invest, how to grow their income, which is all really cool things. Now also paying off debt, which is a big one today. Obviously the cost of living is like skyrocketing. The cost of housing is huge. So if someone's like, hey, I got $10,000 on my credit card and I'm looking to pay it off, do you have any tips for paying off debt?
Yeah, there's 2 common strategies. There's the avalanche method, and then what's the other one? Snowball method. And I can't remember exactly what I don't specialize in debt repayment, but one of them is like focus on your highest debts, like the most expensive debts. And then the other one is focus on the higher interest debts. And so when you have a strategy, I think the main point is that there's already a lot of strategies and support systems out there. You don't have to feel like you're doing it alone and you're just scrambling and you have to come up with a plan by yourself. Like, there are so many debt repayment resources available. And I think the first thing is getting over like the shame and embarrassment of having debt, because for a lot of times people are overspent or they just made decisions impulsively and then they feel bad about it. And that's one of the reasons they're stuck, because they're like, I don't want to look at it, I don't want to address it, and it actually just gets worse because the interest adds up. So just acknowledge it and like develop a plan to tackle it. So look up avalanche method or snowball method and then try to figure out, okay, which one makes the most sense for me.
Got it. And it's like super similar to even like, COVID, I gained a lot of weight and whatnot. And, you try to ignore that you like gain weight and like whatnot. And you're like, hey, I need to get back to the gym. I need to get active again, get out and about and all that kind of stuff. And, it's very similar with finances too. I feel like, you just got to nip it in the butt and kind of look at everything and just be like, hey, let's try and get this sorted out and get to a better place, right? So
yeah, finances are actually really emotional for people. A lot of times people think it's just like you have to be good at math and it's such a linear, robotic system, but it's actually way more emotional than it is mathematical.
Sure.
And I think one of the biggest tips too is, at the end of every month, look at how much you're making and look at how much you're spending.
Yeah, you just need those two numbers.
But I think a lot of people just have that hard time of just knowing what the fact is, right? They see it and they don't even want to think about it because they're like, I know I spend more, but I don't want to know how much more.
Yeah, when people are like, oh, I'm so bad at managing my money, or I don't know, I'm like, you need to know two numbers. How much money do you make and how much money do you spend? And if you subtract those two numbers at the end of the month, there should be leftover. If it's in a negative, you're overspending or you need to increase your income. Yeah. But they don't even know how much they're spending. Yeah. So I'm like, that's step one. Figure out how much you spend per month.
Yeah, sure. And I think a big thing too with couples, or if you're with somebody, talk about finances.
Oh my gosh, yes. Right? I want to do a whole other episode on couples finances.
Because I know that was a big thing with my fiance. She hated talking about her finances, and it wasn't until I was like, it's okay. Like, I don't know why you're so uptight. Like, this is how much I make. This is how much debt I have. This is, and I need to know. So like, can I protect you? You protect me.
Yeah, because you're a team.
Exactly. You have to talk to each other. I think people who don't, they're just setting themselves individually up for failure.
Totally. And when you work as a team, as a collective, you can grow so much faster.
Right. Absolutely.
Awesome.
Great advice.
Yeah, so we've touched on making money, paying off some debt. Now, one of the things that you definitely specialize in is investing your money, investing in the stock market. I know you've had experience in real estate as well. So what could we say to someone that wants to get started in investing? What's the best way of going about it? Maybe some platforms that you use, Liz? Or
yeah. I mean, the first thing is pay off your debt. Because a lot of times people think that, I'm going to invest so I can pay off my debt. But credit card debt is 22%. And if you're not making that in the stock market, it doesn't make sense. Right. So you might as well focus on your high interest debt. So step one, stop trying to jump to the finish line. Like, start at the beginning, pay off your debt, high interest. Like, if you have a mortgage or student loans, it's fine because it's low interest. But then the next step is, okay, do you want to do your TFSA or your RSP? Okay. So for most millennials, TFSA makes the most sense unless you have a high income paying job or you have a employer matching program that matches your RSP. Okay. Other than that, just focus on the TFSA for the most part. Right. Then you want to figure out the platform to use. And this is where people get really confused because they don't understand that there's different brokerages. So they think, I just go to the bank or I go to my dad's financial advisor and then they do everything for me. But they don't realize that there's the do-it-yourself platforms. And those are super easy. It's the same as online shopping. Like, you go, you buy the stock you want, it gives you your total, you check out, and you call it a day. Wow. So the process is easy. It's just the research that requires more time. And that's figure out, okay, what do I actually want to buy? So is it stocks? Is it mutual funds? Do I want to buy bonds? Do I want to buy index funds, ETFs? And there's a whole bunch of layers there. But there's some really easy ways. And the easiest way is really just to use a robo-advisor.
Okay.
But a lot of the banks have their own robo-advisors as well.
So robo-advisor is like a robotic or like a kind of...
It's an algorithm. So essentially it's pre-made portfolios. And they take your risk tolerance. So you do a questionnaire when you sign up and they try to determine, do you have a high risk tolerance, a low risk tolerance, or a moderate risk tolerance? Like, when do you need the money? So you do this questionnaire, and then it says, Cal, you're scared of losing money, so you are going to be in the low risk tolerance category, meaning we're going to give you this pre-made portfolio. So you and hundreds and thousands of other people are in that same portfolio, and essentially they're just investing in like lower risk ETFs.
Okay. Okay. Got it. All right. Awesome. Yeah. So I had no idea that was out there. I was
Okay, looks like we're resting later today. Because I think that's a big misperception for a lot of young adults coming out of school, maybe not necessarily as educated, or maybe wasn't taught the right way to understand that, letting your money work for yourself for the long term, not the short term, the longer term. Even myself too, I know I probably failed in that regard.
You're still young though.
Well, I know.
You're talking like you're 70. You're like, oh, it's lost cause.
But I think that even a lot of people though, they don't necessarily invest until they get into the 30s or potentially 40s too, right? So the younger you are, the better ahead you're going to be, right? So
yeah, and I wish I could have a visual. Maybe we can do it in post.
Right.
But if you just look at like the growth of the S&P 500, which is like the top 500 companies in the state, like it just goes up, right? And so you can invest in that index. Like you can invest in those 500 companies using an exchange traded fund. And it will go up. There will be volatility, meaning it goes up and down, but in the long term, like the trend is upwards.
Right.
So I started investing when I was 18, and that was like right after the recession, 2008, 2009. Like we were just graduating high school.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know what's going on,
Right.
but I'm just, my dad was like, go open up a TFSA because it had just come out. We were the first generation where the TFSA was eligible. We were eligible for it. So I did it, and yeah, it all worked out.
Yeah. And what kind of advice would you have for somebody that, because obviously there's some, rough times right now, interest rates are peaking, stocks are going down in some scenarios, but what advice would you give to somebody today that wanted to invest their money?
I would say, well, stock market and real estate are kind of two different beasts, but when the stock prices are down, I actually buy a lot more because this isn't my first rodeo. Everyone freaks out when it's their first dip. I'm like, 2020, my portfolio lost 20% of its value.
Okay.
2008, 2009, people also lost 30, 40%. You only lose when you sell. And I think a lot of times people forget that and panic. And I'm like, I'm not investing because I needed my money today. I'm investing because I need my money in 20 years or 30 years.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to look at this in the short term. I'm looking at a longer horizon. So don't stress. Like, I just buy more.
Keep going.
Yeah, I'm like just scrambling to take out money to buy even more things.
Right.
Sure.
Absolutely.
And that's a huge thing. I mean, even like growing up, like elementary school, high school, like there should have been like a financial literacy course.
Totally.
And I think it would have helped so many people. I mean, getting into student loans and like, they're going to school and they don't have like a part-time job maybe to like help them kind of pay their way through school. They're just taking all these loans out and having like a super difficult time later on in life, like with the credit cards that they accrued all this debt on and student loans. And then now they're wanting to buy a car, buy a house, and meet a significant other. So yeah, Liz, like is there anything out there financial literacy wise that might be getting kind of put into the school system, or like any resources out there that like younger generations might be able to look into?
Yeah, I think they are putting financial literacy in the curriculum.
Okay.
And I go to high schools and talk to the students too, because I actually really want to get them when they're young. I'm like, trust me, if you learn now, it's going to make your life so much easier, because I'm working with like 30, 40, 50-year-olds cleaning up the mess. I'm like, just avoid the mess and learn when you're young.
Yeah.
Sure. And I feel like that's something that like you could leave a massive legacy behind, like building out like something huge like that, which I think is just going to be like instrumental in the youth. And obviously, with debt, there comes a ton of stress and anxiety and whatnot. And you don't realize how much of an effect it takes on people until they're like in this hole and they're super worried about, oh my God, like, is this like the end of me? Like, am I going to have to declare bankruptcy or like something like that, So, yeah, definitely a huge thing that needs to happen, I feel. And I feel like you're helping people.
Liz is coming in hot.
Yeah.
Liz is coming in hot. Watch out.
Watch out, kids. I'm coming to teach you.
Save your money. Invest it. Absolutely. Well, that's what kids need. And especially young adults, even adults, that maybe just don't have the resources. Or I think a lot of it comes down to parenting too, right? If the parents didn't necessarily do it at a younger age, right, you're going to help your kids by just teaching them. Just pull them
Yeah.
aside. Do a quick little 10 minutes a week. Just saying, hey,
My dad did that.
oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I definitely attribute like so much of my financial literacy to my dad
Mm-hmm.
because my parents didn't have money to pay for our education, but we all graduated debt free because we all had the financial literacy to be like, don't get into debt. Like my dad was so intense, and my mom too. Like my mom taught us how to look for deals. Like I always went shopping at liquidation stores and like thrift stores with my mom.
Yeah.
So yeah, I always just knew like shop secondhand, like the basics, and it worked out.
Yeah.
So, but a lot of times people think like, oh, my parents didn't teach me, but I also work with parents who are really bad at their finances too. I'm like,
Right.
no, you're lucky they didn't teach you because
Yeah.
they don't know either. So
Yeah.
like just stay neutral and learn. And we have the internet and we have a lot of resources now. So I think millennials like can learn on their own. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, if your parents didn't teach you, like that does suck, but that doesn't mean you can't learn now.
Sure. And even like for some parents out there, like they'll tell you like, hey, like save your money, like don't overspend or whatever it may be. But they don't take the time to actually teach you why it's important to save your money and like long term what the benefits are, sort of thing, right?
Yeah, like I remember my dad pulling out his mutual fund statements and like showing it to us and showing us the charts. And I didn't know what I was looking at, but there was something about like knowing that this world existed that planted a seed in my head, being like, oh, okay, I guess people do this. And that's all I needed to know that I should do research on my own, to be
Yeah.
like, there's this world out there where like rich people put their money in the stock market and then it grows. Like, how
Yeah.
does that work?
Yeah.
And I'm a really big advocate on teaching like my kid, even though he's 2. People are like, just let him be a kid. I'm like, I'm not raising no scrub. Like my
Right.
son is gonna know, and
Yeah.
I'm not telling him like at 2 years old, 3 years old, 5 years old, he needs to be investing in the stock market. But I want him to know like what's out there, and also you don't need to have everything. Like
Yeah.
no is a full sentence, and if you want something, he needs to work for it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well,
Awesome.
But that's a big, I think, misperception for a lot of parents out there too, right? Showing your kids how easy it is, and then once they leave the nest, how hard it actually is.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't think a lot of young adults are ready for that, leaving the nest.
Well, a lot of them aren't. Like statistically, more and more people are staying at home and living
Yeah.
with their parents. And it's not because they're not ready. Like that's part of it, but also like the housing market.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow.
So what was your experience investing in real estate, buying your first home? Do you have like a rental property or anything like that?
Yeah, I have a duplex. So when I saved to quit my job, I had that 1 year's salary.
Okay.
And then that's what I used for the down payment. Because I'm like, well, I don't need this because I'm doing well. So I'll just buy a down payment. At that time, I had met my boyfriend. We'd only been dating for like a year and a half when I was like, listen, I'm going to buy this rental property. So like, do you want to do this together? And yeah, we did, because I'm like, well, I hope this all works out. I mean, it's been 6 years now, so it's all good. But
Yeah.
I also thought, he could be a joint venture partner, even if I didn't think we were going to break up, but also I thought it through. And I'm like, well, there's all this legal paperwork of what would happen if we got separated. So
Sure.
let's just go for it.
Yeah.
And then we bought a duplex, and it's been good.
Awesome. Another leap of faith, eh?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So you saved up and bought your first house, and then you bought this house together with your.
Yeah, 2 years after the
2 years
first house.
Okay.
And then we are on track for the third house, but I'm not liking these interest rates, so I'm just kind of holding out,
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
5% is a lot, right? Especially in the Canadian market. Now, what would you say are some pros and cons about the duplex that you have? Because then you would have 2 tenants, right?
Yeah,
Right. Okay. So it's not like you live in the one, like you have a separate house.
it's a separate house. So we
Okay.
have our primary residence, and then we have a duplex. And we wanted a duplex because you have higher security. Like if one tenant moves out, the upstairs tenant is still there, or vice versa.
Yeah.
So, that's a plus. Yeah, I mean, there's pros and cons. For us and for me, I wanted diversification. So yes, I'm heavily invested in the stock market, but I was also like, let me get real estate in there as well to make sure that I don't have all my eggs in one basket. And they perform differently and appreciate differently. So I like that for diversity. But yeah, I mean, it gives me headaches. Definitely gives me more headaches than the stock market.
Okay.
But luckily, my husband's like super chill and like does not stress about anything. And he's very like normal, and I'm like high anxiety. And so whenever there's issues, I'm like, you deal with it. Like,
Okay.
I'll deal with the numbers, I'll deal with the contractors, and he'll deal with like anything that goes wrong. Like, I don't even want to hear about it.
Right. Good. Okay. Well, it makes a team, right? And I
Yeah.
think if you have that someone to rely on, right? Just like partners in a business, partners in a relationship.
Totally.
Because you guys are really business partners.
Yeah.
Right. So you guys are going to rely on each other, and whoever is more successful in other things, like taking the brunt of
Yeah,
the
he has
horse.
the skills for something else, and I have the skills for something else. And
Right.
so together, you know, we just make a team.
That's
Awesome.
great.
Awesome. So if anyone wanted to reach out to you, Liz, and get some help with investing, I mean, so particularly like who do you want to work with, or who are your clients that you work with right now?
Yeah, my clients are mostly people who have a little bit of money saved up, but they're scared of investing. Like they're scared of the stock market. They're scared of losing their money. They know that they should be doing something, but they're just sitting on money in the savings account doing nothing.
Sure.
So those are typically the people I work with. And then, yeah, for public speaking, I love going to high schools. Like, I'll talk to anyone who will listen,
Yeah.
but there's something about high school that, you know, I just want to get them when they're young, prevent them from making mistakes, and put them on the right path.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because it is the best time, right? There's nothing worse than probably being 35, 40 years old and realizing, wow, I got a lot of catch up to do,
Yeah.
right?
Sure. And then, so how would they reach out to you, Liz?
Right, yeah, I'm on all the social media platforms under Ambitious Adulting. So TikTok, Instagram, wherever.
Awesome. Yeah. So we're going to link all of Ambitious Adulting, the Instagram, Facebook. Your website is ambitiousadulting.com.
Adulting.com, yeah.
So we'll link that all on the YouTube in the comments or the description. And so if you guys want to reach out to Liz, get any information, any support in any way, feel free to do that. And yeah.
And what are, I know we're going to finish the podcast here shortly, but if you had to give yourself 20-year-old advice when you were 20, what would it be?
I would say don't stress too much. Like, I was so stressed all the time about everything.
Yeah.
But I have a pretty great life, and I wish I just told myself, like, it's all going to be okay.
Yeah. Just stick with it. And do you have any goals for yourself 5-10 years from now?
Buy our third property. We
Yeah.
actually want to have, like, a bit of a homestead. And, yeah. Even though I, like, can barely keep my plants alive, I'm going to try to be this, like, urban farmer. So we'll see how that goes.
Sure,
Yeah.
I'll probably just hire out help.
That's great. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Liz. We really appreciate you being a part of the podcast and telling us your journey and giving us some insights of young adults that can change their lives, not now, but necessarily 40 years from now. And great information today. So thank you, everyone, for watching and listening to the podcast. Be sure to hit that subscribe button or hit the like button as well, too. And make sure you hit that notification so you don't miss out on any future podcasts. Thank you, everyone, for watching. We'll catch you in the next episode. Awesome. That was awesome.
Yo, Liz, you're sick.
That was awesome.
I forgot to